Okay, so welcome everyone to our study abroad podcast series. So today we have Sarthak Arora, who studied in Singapore and will be talking about his journey of study abroad. So welcome, Sarthak.
Hi Vishal, thank you for having me here. I am glad to answer your questions and query, and it would be very nice if I can share my journey with you guys.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with our discussion points. So the very first question that we have is during your bachelor's or during your India time education, what was the trigger point at which you decided that you would want to go abroad for study, and how did that decision making happen?
Okay, so I did my bachelor's from Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology. I had this thing from childhood where I also, I always wanted to study more and go into the in-depth knowledge of the subject. So during my bachelor days, I was more towards the research side, and I got a chance to visit IIT Bombay for a research internship in 2020. And unfortunately, COVID struck in that year, so my research internship was cut short. Like for 3 months, I have to came back. But I always wanted to go on a research side, but at that point, I realized that uh, I am more aligned towards the corporate goals and towards the experiment thing rather than doing the thesis and writing all the stuff, researching a bit. So my interest aligned more towards the corporate side, but yet I wanted to go into the deeper knowledge of the subject. And I was going through the courses, and if you see most of the master courses in India are research oriented. You have to write a thesis. Like, you will not get a non-thesis course which focus on the more on the industry side. So thesis is kind of a compulsory subject and compulsory doing when you are in India. So that was kind of one of the motivation to go outside and go to abroad and get more into the industry insights. And that's how I began my journey of finding my colleges and going through that. So this was one of the motivation. And then I started finding my universities. Luckily, I got into two of the universities. I got into Northeastern University in Boston, and then I got into Nanyang Technological University, NTU, which is in Singapore. And me being the person who focuses more on the kind of university rankings of it, so NTU was much higher and it was rising and it's one of the top most colleges in Asia. So I decided to go to Singapore because I admitted in smart manufacturing program. So that's how I decided to go to abroad and study.
So you had two offers. One was this US offer, Northeastern University, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and this one NTU.
Yes.
Did you apply to more colleges? I mean, did you also face any rejection?
Okay, so the idea was to at least make a pool of 8 universities, which is the ideal cause. You don't want to go and apply into too much of the universities because there is an admission cost involved. So the idea is to research and divide the universities in kind of a three categories. Okay, this is my ambitious college, this is my safe universities, and this is the universities which is a bit difficult to get in, but with some kind of hard work, you'll be in. So I kind of divided my universities into these three pool, and so when the deadline of applying was approaching, so my kind of universities were divided into two halves. From Jan to March, there were the deadline for four of the universities, and from March to May onwards, there were the four universities. And this happened when I was in my fourth year of the final year of my bachelor's degree, the BTech. So I applied to four of the universities during the first half, and then I had my final year exams. Luckily, out of those four, I got into two. And NTU was in one of my ambitious universities at that time, so I didn't apply it into the rest of the four because that was the goal all over. So I had three countries in my mind. Like, one of the universities was NTU in Singapore, and the rest two was divided in Canada and USA. So out of the four I applied, I got into two, and I I didn't got reply. I didn't get any reply from one university, the USC, which is in USA, and I got rejection from one of the universities in Canada. But luckily, I got into two, and I decided to move further with NTU.
Sure. So, did they offer you some kind of partial scholarship, tuition fee waiver, or partial waiver, or something from these two
Okay, so
universities?
one thing which I have researched a bit, and I got to know that because I was doing I was applying to the program which was coursework related and was not the thesis programs. So you don't get much waiver or scholarships in the coursework programs. So I was very well, like, I knew from the very beginning that the chances of getting a scholarship or a fee waive is very less. So I was kind of prepared to pay the full tuition fees.
Sure, sure. And how was your documentation process, the initial, I mean, the application process you applied online, let's say, probably. And so this whole process of application to getting the offer to the visa, was that smooth enough for NTU in your experience?
Yes, it was because when I started my journey, I was very much confused about, what kind of exams we have to give, what are the different approach we should have. So that's how I started. During my third years of bachelor, I started preparing GATE because NTU was in my mind from the very starting, and I started preparing GATE, and then I realized GATE is only required if you are going for the thesis program in NTU. That's how I dropped the idea of preparing for GATE. Then came the most famous exam, that is GRE. I was lucky enough that GRE was waived off from almost all the universities at that time because I was applying through the COVID time. I mean, that kind of worked in my advantage. But on the other hand, if you see that now the admissions is solely based on the merits, on your application, on your resume. So some people might think, oh, you are the COVID batch, so you got lucky because you don't have to give the GRE. But according to my interpretation, GRE is kind of a basic exam, like to test your IQ. And after that, your whole application depends upon like your personal essay, your resume, and whatever you have achieved in your college life. So that was the approach. I obviously gave IELTS. I ended up scoring 7.5 bands, and which was the necessary test for the English communication. Other than that, all the steps of the applications were pretty much easier, and you have to get three letter of recommendations, two or three depending upon university, from like your corporate experiences or from your universities, and the other thing is the your SOP, the personal essay which you write, which kind of creates a deep impact on the selectors. So that was one thing which I was focusing primarily on because the exams were waived off. So the onboarding process was very smooth. You just fill up an online application, you just fill up your LORs. But for the Singapore, one thing was you need to give proofs of every internship, every project, or every certification you have got, which was not in the case of, let's say, the admission processes in US or Canada. You might have to give out the proof later, but it was not the part of the process during the application form. But for Singapore, like I used to run an NGO based on mental health back in COVID, and I was because I'm very much into social work, so I used to work in another NGO called Girls Up Sheroes, which was a sub-community of the Girl Up community, right? And so they require the certificates to have a proof that you have worked there. And that was kind of a little challenge for you because COVID time and you have to get the certificates and get all the proofs. But other than that, the admission process was very smooth.
Sure, sure. And you had to, the course fee and all, you had to pay like semester wise for the visa, or you had to show any funds proof or something?
For Singapore, I didn't have to show any funds. The fees was semester wise. I obviously took an education loan to like for my fees. But the good thing was you don't have to fees. You don't have to pay the fees upfront as well while you join the semester. So what happens is my course was a 1.5 year long course, and let's just say you have to do 30 credit units, for example. 10 courses you have to complete in 1.5 year time. And it depends upon you how much of courses you are going to opt in for each semester. So that was the idea. And like the number of courses you have admitted, then you accordingly have to pay the fees. So there will be no concept of paying the fees upfront because you have to choose your courses later. And like even after you get a week or two so time to change your courses or to drop a course or to add a course, but you can pick maximum of 5 courses in a semester. So the maximum duration of completing your degree is 1.5 years. The minimum duration came out to be 1 year. Five courses each semester, and then you are through. So that was the aim. You at least get a buffer of a month or two after the joining to pay the fees. You choose the subjects, and then the bill will be generated, the AMC, the annual fees, and then they'll give you a deadline, which would be approximately a month after that. So you get a timeline of a month and a half for paying your tuition fees.
Sure. And how was this education loan process? Was that like NTU as a top university, the education loan from the bank was quite smooth? I mean, do you had to put, I mean, did you put any collateral for this, or how was the
No,
process?
no, the bank loan was quite smooth. So there is, I don't know, many people know about this. There is a scheme from government. It's something called Prime Minister like Yojana. This is especially made out to give student loans for the people those who want to go abroad. And so they have a pool of universities, so they know these are the top universities in the world. And if you're admitted to one of them, the loan process becomes a lot smoother. So I had some of my investments and the amount of loan which I took, comparative to that, I didn't have to put up a collateral. But yeah, it was majorly because of the university which I got admitted into because they do all the background checks and the research on the universities as well. So the education loan, the process was kind of smooth. Like I got granted, my loan got granted within a week.
Okay, okay, sure. It was an online application for the loan, or
No,
you had to visit the branch?
I went on to a bank. So the scheme I'm telling you about, you can fill up the online you can fill up the contents online for that, and they'll give you the list of the banks in your city for which bank they're applicable. But if you go to the bank, talk to offline, and then fill the form, and then you choose that bank, so they'll automatically get a notification or a message from that website considering that this so and so people has applied for the role, and it is up to them that they have to choose the if they have to accept the premise. But if you have talked to them beforehand, they know that okay, this is the situation, and then they go through the process. They kind of follow the process.
And how many credits you had to fulfill for your master's?
I think one course was approximately 4 credit units, and since I told you I have to do around like 10 courses, so around 40 credit units, I guess.
Okay, okay. And you, I mean, you planned that this 1.5 year course you will finish in 2 semesters only.
Yeah. So the ideology is Uh, so Indians are a bit of a hardworking, if you see. We don't want to, like exaggerate our semester. Although it's a good thing based on your uh, education and the duration because the workload is little bit less. So my university timings was my classes used to happen from 7 to 10 p.m. at night. So the idea for that, it might seem odd to people, but the idea is the education is open to even the people, those who are doing the corporates. So they are doing the degree part time and they're doing full time jobs. They're even like they're married, they are parents of two, but yet the zeal to finish the education is there. So the course is made keeping the necessity for them as well. So what happened is the 3 hour, one subject per day, 3 hour long class. So it seems quite, when I tell them though they think it's just 3 hours, but when you like comparatively study, it's a lot of material to consume. So it can be overwhelming to do 5 courses, 5 courses a semester. But I think since like we all do BTech in India, we are very much used to do 6 or 7 courses a semester pretty much. So it was kind of a normal for me to do 5 semester. But although also my major aim was to finish my degree as soon as I can, and then I'll entirely focus on my corporate career. That was
So
the aim.
each day you had like one class, or
Yes.
there were like two classes, 1.5 hour, one and a half
One,
hour.
no, no. So I took five subjects per semester, each day one class, 3 hours each. 7 to 10
Okay,
was my
three
class
hours
timings.
was like one subject 3 hours. So every week you had one class of 3 hours for each
Yes,
subject. And you can
yes,
take up to five subjects because Monday to Friday usually are
yes.
the classes, I guess.
So
And
technically it
Saturday,
makes
Sunday was
sense.
holidays
Saturday,
or
Sunday was off.
okay, sure, sure. And this you I mean when you're doing this, you stayed in campus, off campus. How did you decide your accommodation?
So NTU students, they get like the rate of hostels are pretty much less than the PGs, because top universities, so the students get the subsidies on the hostels and hostel stuff. So the rate comparison would go as if I am living in a double sharing or twin shared bed, let's just say. So it will cost me around $400 to $500 per month. Other than that, if you go and seek your accommodation outside of campus, that will go around $800 to $900. But luckily, my aunt lives in Singapore, my one of my dearest aunt. So I was staying with her.
Okay, so you didn't have to struggle on the accommodation part so
No,
much,
I didn't have to, but
and
some
also
of
the
my
food part.
friends, yeah, so I didn't have to. I got very lucky in that scenario. I didn't have to struggle on the food and the accommodation. But like my like very close friends, they live in the hostel, so I know all the rate scenarios because I've helped them finding the rooms outside. I've helped them finding the rooms inside the campus. So because I've explored the city, explored the country so much that I know about the rates inside out very well.
So your aunt was kind of one decision-making factor also in this
Yeah,
choosing the
definitely,
college.
definitely. I mean, from the cost point of view, definitely. But if someone is planning out to go to the Singapore, they should be prepared if we calculate the per month cost. So, food perspective, if you are a vegetarian and if you are living in campus, then your food is sorted because there are good vegetarian places inside the campus and you don't have to worry about anything. If you're non-vegetarian, then pretty much you are comfortable all around the country. And talking about Singapore, they have this concept of hawker centers, which is kind of a food court thing. I think you are pretty much familiar with that. Uh, so, so the actual meal will cost you around $4 to $5. So if we calculate a meal for a day, it would maximum cost you $20 per day. Extrapolating it to a month, $600 for meal, approximately $600 for accommodation if you're living inside the campus. So this $1,200 you are paying for a month on an average.
For sure. I think most study abroad people pay, end up paying that almost a 1
Yeah,
lakh per month, kind of roughly the budget for accommodation, food, and
yes,
other expenses here and there. So that's why I think if you are staying somewhere for 1 year, so it's like you need to have at least that 12 lakh apart from the
exactly.
tuition fee and
You
so
should.
on. Like that's like a rough budget for any location in general, unless you are
Yeah.
maybe at a very hi-fi location or something. Sure. And how was the teaching style? So you studied at Thapar and then you studied at NTU. So you would have noticed probably the differences in the way things are taught by professors there. And let's say your peer group, maybe in your college UG time, you probably may not have that much serious people compared to NTU. Like, how was that crowd of UG versus PG, and from the student point of view as well as professor point of view?
Okay. The professors obviously they are on the top of the fields, right? Some of the people might find an issue with the delivery accent because if we all are accustomed to the accent which British people speaks or which the American people speaks because that is the English standards we follow. That is the series we kind of grow up watching. That is the kind of audio we like are perceived in our minds. So one of the major challenges if you go to Singapore is the delivery accent of the native Singaporeans because they have a very different type of tone. So to understand that you need to talk to them frequently because that would help to understand what they are saying. So that might be a bit challenging. But yeah, like during my first semester, I had a faculty. If I talk about faculty, there were two Indian teachers. One of them was Japanese, and two of them were Chinese. So I had no difficulty part when it came up to Indian teachers and to the Japanese counterpart because they were very fluent in English. But even the Singaporean teachers are very well. I'm talking only about the delivery here. Knowledge wise, they are pretty much awesome in their own field. Yeah. Also, for the masters, there were no criteria. There was no criteria of attendance for me. Like in UG, of course, they also don't care, but you still have a bracket to complete the 75% of attendance. In PG, there was no attendance system. So it's pretty much on you how much knowledge you want to consume. And because people of all the cultures are coming all around the world, so you get to fairly exchange new ideologies, but on a very different level you get to understand the knowledge they got during their bachelors. I think in India the bachelors is pretty much extensive and we get a very good knowledge. The database and the knowledge is very good, so we genuinely get a very good exposure during our bachelor times. That is what I have observed.
So your classes in the evening were online classes or a hybrid
No, no,
mixed or
it
offline?
used to be offline classes. The So in the Singapore, what happened was I was supposed to go join in August 2021, but during my joining, COVID came in Singapore. So they gave me an offer that either I chose to be starting in August and do one semester online, or I shall defer my semester to 6 months or a year. But I think that if you're doing masters, the practical education is must, and you should definitely go out and because it's all about the exposure and the knowledge you gain while talking to different people. So I deferred one of my semesters. So I joined in January 2022, but the COVID outbreak was still there. So you get options of joining both online and offline. Some courses were completely offline, some courses were hybrid, but if one of the students or the teachers they are suffering from COVID, then the option entirely goes to the online class. But that was in the first semester. During my second semester, everything was settled down and it was completely offline till then.
Sure, sure, sure. And what was your like weekend routine? What did you do usually?
Okay, so one good thing is I think it will be the most common question among the youngsters those who are planning to go abroad is how can you earn money doing the part-time jobs and scenario. So Singapore, I used to teach maths on the weekend with a company called Math Vision. So, because of my degree and my bachelor's, so I got selected there as a teacher. So, weekends I used to go and teach one-on-one maths to students, and I got paid around $13 per hour. So, that was the weekend routine. This is how I used to save up money because I took care of my entire expenses on my own during my whole journey in Singapore. And then like used to go out with friends, explore country, that kind of stuff on the weekend. And during because I deferred one of my semesters, so the summer vacation came in between, and I was lucky enough that I secured an internship in Micron in Singapore for 3 months, and I got paid a good amount of money which helped me plan my finances for the next semester. So the second semester, I didn't work part-time because I've saved enough money and I have managed my finances in such a way that I know that all my finances for the next semester will be taken care of. And I was focusing more on the job opportunities and enhancing my resume in the second semester. That was the aim.
Sure, sure. And after you finished your degree, or almost like at the time of finishing your degree, how did you decide, like, how about the placement and all? I think in abroad, countries, generally there is no placement assistance
Yeah.
like in India. How did you see that as a, like, I mean, were you disappointed a bit with that rule, or
Okay.
like was it
In
a good?
in case of NTU, they were placement assistants. They had a placement cell. So if you want to reach out to them, they'll definitely help you find the jobs. Also, one of the good things about NTU is they organize career fairs twice in a year. So the concept is all the major companies in every field will come to your university and you have to pitch them. So they are there for the doubts taking about the different roles, about the openings of the job in the country. Also, some few people know about it. If you're good enough and if you pitch your skills well, they'll take your interview there and then. Like the first round will be there. I got lucky. I have given one of my interview rounds with one of the company called Siltronics got cleared there and then in the career fair. And so it's kind of a major boost for the students of NTU because they get a platform where all the companies are coming under one roof in their university and they can go talk to them, talk about the company profile, talk about the jobs, and get into kickstart their corporate journey. And the placement cell also helps if you go and talk to them. Every person is assigned a mentor, but the thing is, you have to approach them. They're not gonna approach you directly. If you go on the website, you go on the student portal, you will see that oh, you have been assigned a mentor. So you go and talk to your placement mentor about the stuff that okay, I want to find a job. I'm looking for a job in this sector. So what they'll do is they'll just help you find the job openings in the sector. That's what they'll do. In India, the scenario is different. In India, the university thrive on the placements. So the entire goal of student entering into the university is all about the placement ratio because here the universities thrive on the percentage of placements done, and then they take pain and they take headache on of them because they want maximum students to get placed. If you go to abroad, I think they'll not take that much pain, but they'll definitely help you out. They also want students to kickstart their professional journey.
Sure, sure. And what's your future goal? Like, what do you want to do, like, in few years from now, and what's your career
So
aspiration?
I am currently working in a startup of EV right now, and I am expanding my horizons because it's going to be a boom. It's the need of the hour. Long term, I definitely am exploring on my entrepreneurial skills. I would definitely want to do something of my own, and I'm working out on few of the ideas. So let's see how it pans out. Till then, I am just like, getting to explore the corporate world as of now.
So is the education loan, the one you took, uh, creating any hindrance in your entrepreneurship aspiration, or you don't see that as a hindrance as of now?
I think if you loan could be one of the factors for like almost everyone, but I think you should not let down your spirits because it happened with me. Being the only student in my class to secure an internship, to being the batch where no one got the job. I got selected for a company. My interviews got cleared when I was in Singapore, but uh, I was not able to get the visa sponsorship from the company because of the recession. This is also the case in Singapore. That company has to sponsor your work visa, and there are three types of work visa categories. So, yeah, that is one of the major things if you want to secure a corporate job. And because of the COVID and recession, I think at that time the companies didn't had money to sponsor work visa for the foreign expats. So that is why I plan to move back to India. I mean, it was a hard decision, but then again, I thought I have studied too much. I have the necessary skills. I can thrive even in India. And I mean, you have to be mentally strong. That should be the aim. You don't have to let yourself down. And if you obviously plan your finances well, you will be able to, like like pay all of your education loan. But the spirit is to move ahead and not, let yourself down.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think, yeah, 1 year course might be doable for a lot of people. I think problem might arise if they're doing, 2, 3 year, 4 year course and maybe taking the education loan for it. Then
Yeah,
maybe it's probably hard for them even to come back to India because they need to probably clear the loan first.
I mean
Okay.
that definitely makes sense, and of course that is one of the major problems, and that is why people tend to work even part time if they're not getting jobs in the countries. But as of now, if you'll see that on the global scenario, they're not the jobs are not there for the foreign expats. I mean, the MNCs are not completely hiring, and the students are in like a lot of tension because of this. So I personally feel like we are hoping the market gets good and all those like all my brothers and sisters, those who are studying out there, they get job as soon as possible. But that's definitely a factor.
Yeah, sure. I think the high paying jobs are getting scarce and scarce, like getting lesser and lesser because
Yes,
somehow companies are able to find the economic version of the same kind of labor probably.
exactly.
So I think that's where the people who are studying a lot maybe they'll have a bit of the salary versus
I th
expectation
yeah, I
difference.
think anyone who is trying to go to abroad as of now should focus and should do a thorough market research on about their journey, their expenses, about their course, and of course the placement ratio because you'll get that stuff online. Also, facing and considering the future aspects and scenario that would be the job criteria. My one of my friend who went to US 2 years back, luckily got a job, and I'm very much happy for him. But few of his like not few, many of his friends are still not able to get the job, and he is in US, Washington. So one can only hope, but has to do the research before choosing the correct college for them.
I think probably they should have a kind of a backup plan. So not solely depend that, I'll finish my education, I'll get a high paying job, and then I'll clear all my loan. Especially, I mean, this is true more for the education loan part because that becomes a liability later. When if you
That
are able
is
to pay
true.
by loan, then it's
Also,
okay.
I think one of the mindset of everyone who is moving to abroad while studying is they have that fear, what if we don't get the jobs? So they're not able to settle their minds about that they might have to come back to India. That fear is what doesn't help them, kind of cause a hindrance. I think if you are pretty much mentally ready that okay, in the worst case scenario, this is the case and I have to move back to India, I think back in your mind you obviously try to create a backup plan for the money aspect as well. I think this is what everyone should do as of now. They should be mentally prepared. Okay, there is a 1% chance that I do not get the job and I have to move back to India. So this should be my game plan to, pay off my loan. That kind of mindset, that kind of mental training is very important, according to me. This is the need of the hour.
So this will be like a tip to your juniors who are
Yeah,
aspiring.
definitely my tip to the juniors because people are like a lot of like, they're creative as of now. I mean, the younger generation, they obviously they know how to make money, so they should be well prepared. That this is the scenario, and worst case, I have to come back. I know I can definitely use my skills and resources to do wonders. So that mental surety to give yourself and not to let down is important.
So your 1 year of Singapore experience, now you are back to India. So and you are from Delhi, is it?
I'm from Ludhiana.
Ludhiana. Okay. So, but if you see Delhi, if you have been to Delhi, maybe probably you have been to, I think, because you would be taking the same flight.
I'm living in Delhi as of now.
You're living in Delhi, yeah.
Yeah.
So the metro of Delhi and the airport of Delhi, did you see that it's like a replica of Singapore only? And did you get lost when you landed there that I am back to Delhi, maybe?
No, 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 no. I have been to like you're talking about the two of the airports which are like in the top five rankings in the world. But yeah, I mean it's always good to come back to your country. So this is pretty nice. I mean, you like always we can like do it. There is always everything in here for us in India.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, I think you already gave some advice to your juniors. Do you
Yeah.
want to add any more advices? So that's like our last point. You have any more advices for your potential juniors who wish to go abroad for study?
One of my advice, and this quite basic, is that like if you're going out, do explore and do focus on studies as well, obviously, but don't let the burden of your education loan come in between your journey and your education, because that would like provide a hindrance to your personal development, and you can be a little bit move away from your goals. So the loan, you will definitely work hard and pay it off. That would definitely be done. But please focus on your journey and enjoy as much as you can, because the whole time will not come back. That is my only advice.
Okay, that's a good advice. So thank you, Sarthak, for your time, and we'll end our podcast now. So thank you very much for
Thank you,
sharing
Shahid.
your journey to our audience, and hopefully our audience will have some enlightenment from this conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me here. I was
Thank you,
glad.
sir. I learned a
Thank you,
lot from
Romal.
you.
Thank you, Romal. Thanks for having me on board. I am